For 3,000 years, the galaxy knew peace. Empires rose and merged, star systems flourished, ancient enemies became trade partners, diplomats, cultural ambassadors. Wars turned into stories told to children, their lessons diluted by time and comfort. And then they remembered Earth not by accident, not through diplomacy. No, someone pulled up the Terra archive as a joke during a council session, a side comment, a curiosity, and the room went silent. Why haven't they responded to any council summons? Hissed Executor Zal Voss, four eyes narrowing on the shimmering blue sphere hovering above the table. Earth, labeled as unaligned, unmonitored, untamed. For a moment there was hesitation. Then, overcompensation. A full declaration of war was drafted in 12 minutes. The official announcement was sent via galaxy-wide transmission, formal, threatening, decorated with war banners and ceremonial bluster. To the ruling powers of Terra, your persistent refusal to adhere to council law, your abandonment of peace protocols, and your failure to acknowledge our diplomatic requests is considered an act of galactic hostility. You have 72 standard hours to surrender. It was signed, sealed, and delivered with full confidence. After all, humanity hadn't fought a war in centuries. What could they possibly do? Meanwhile, on Earth, Steve was flipping burgers. Not metaphorically, not in a command center or secret lab. No, in someone's backyard, in Australia. Wearing a faded Hawaiian shirt with pineapples on it, a soft beep echoed from his comm implant. He tapped the side of his temple. Yeah? The voice on the other end was flat. Council declared war, full mobilization. You're being activated. Steve flipped a burger. You sure this isn't about that prank I pulled with the Martian embassy? Steve. They're coming. Cool, he said, and turned off the grill. Tell them to bring napkins. Back. In the Galactic Council's inner chamber, alien leaders were reviewing fleet deployments. Operation Compliance was underway. 3 full armadas, 12 command ships, and enough firepower to sterilize a quadrant. Councillor Voraktel looked up from the deployment screen. We expect Earth to beg for terms within the hour, but Earth wasn't begging, Earth wasn't even replying. Then it happened, an open broadcast from Earth, a single feed. Poor lighting. Horizontal phone angle. A human wearing sunglasses, still in a Hawaiian shirt, still holding BBQ tongs. Hey there, glitter frogs. Thanks for the war heads up. We'll be ready. Oh, quick question though. You guys ever play dodgeball with a nuke? Then he winked. The screen cut to static. In the galactic flagship Dominion Ascendant, Commander Vrak paused the feed. Everyone on the bridge was silent. Was that their military leader? An officer croaked. No, Vrak said quietly. That was Steve, gasps. One junior officer fainted. Not that Steve, whispered another. Vrak slowly turned, eyes wide. We've made a mistake. Outside, the fleet neared Earth's atmosphere. Scanners picked up strange anomalies, not fleets, not defense satellites. Something worse. Silence, strategic, terrifying silence. Steve arrived at Command HQ 2 hours later, still wearing the Hawaiian shirt, still smelling like grilled ribs. The guards didn't salute him. They cleared the hallways. Inside the war room, holoscreens showed alien fleets closing in on the solar system. Dozens of analysts, generals, and AI tacticians argued over defense lines, interceptor patterns, orbital cannon calibration. Steve just looked around, unimpressed. Too clean in here, he muttered. Feels like we forgot how to make a mess. General. Ruiz approached. We're hours from contact. You're authorized for full discretion. Steve grinned. You sure? No. She handed him a data pad. But I'm also not the one who once turned a Zarnathi dreadnought into a fishing boat. Steve squinted at the pad. You kept the blueprints? We kept everything, including the geese. In orbit around Neptune, Fleet Gamma initiated scan lock. Alien ships glided in precision patterns, glistening with advanced alloys and weaponized graviton emitters. To them, Earth was a primitive mudball. Their simulations predicted complete subjugation in less than 72 Earth minutes. They had no idea that humans hadn't even started talking to them yet, because Earth didn't talk to threats. Earth responded, and right now, That response was being loaded into an old satellite dish on the moon. In a forgotten Cold War facility, buried beneath Antarctica, engineers worked under flickering lights. The room was labeled, "Do not touch." They touched everything. One technician leaned over a massive panel labeled Resonance Worm Logic Array, Do Not Energize. He whispered to his partner. "Do you know what this does?" The partner shrugged. No idea, but Steve signed the requisition. He pressed the button. Somewhere in low orbit, 600 alien ships briefly lost contact with reality. Not weapons, not shields. Memory. Whole squads forgot which way gravity worked. Officers screamed as their own language rewired itself into Earth nursery rhymes. One battleship folded itself in half and asked politely for a nap. The Council didn't understand. This wasn't retaliation. This wasn't war. This was the result of waking something that spent 3,000 years getting bored. The humans had weaponized. Everything chaos misdirection. Memes, pigeons trained to seek exhaust ports to AI. Generals running on caffeine and sarcasm. One human unit was literally just 12 guys named Greg, with jetpacks and a bad attitude. And above it all, watching from a high-orbit stealth platform, Steve stood on the deck sipping iced tea. He tapped. "Here's comm." "Marcella," he said casually. "Initiate Operation Knock Knock," General Ruiz's voice crackled in. "God help us all, no need," Steve replied. "We brought fireworks." He smiled, and behind him the moon lit up, literally. 3 cloaked Earth supercarriers uncloaked above lunar orbit, engines screaming, and for the first time in 3,000 years, peace died laughing. The Zirac fleet reached Earth's orbit 12 hours ahead of schedule. Their ships formed a flawless web of aggression, sleek obsidian cruisers, interlocked with gold-trimmed carriers, flanked by smaller pulse boats that shimmered like daggerfish. It was meant to be a display, a show of force, a final chance for Earth's surrender, but there was no response. The humans didn't even bother jamming signals. They simply didn't care. Commander Verac of the Dominion Ascendant stood at the edge of his holographic viewport, mandibles clicking, in agitation. "They are ignoring us. Should we transmit again?" asked his tactician. "No," Verac growled. "Send in the ground bloomers." "Sir." "The ground bloomers?" Verac turned, eyes glowing. "Let's make them kneel." The order rippled through the fleet. Pods deployed. Hundreds of atmospheric drop barges screamed through Earth's skies like burning spears, splitting clouds and cracking the stratosphere. Inside each, elite Zirac shock troopers prepared for swift urban occupation. But Earth had already seen them coming. And Earth had plans. Site Alpha, somewhere in Kansas. The Zirac landing barge slammed into an open field with surgical precision. Its doors blasted open. Dozens of armored troopers stormed out in synchronized steps, weaponized, shielded, roaring, and standing there waiting was a scarecrow. Wearing a traffic cone, holding a sign. The sign read, "Turn back, we release the geese." The troopers paused. Then the soil began to vibrate. A distant honk echoed across the flat horizon. Then another, then 50. From over the hill came a stampede of weaponized Canadian geese, modified with metallic beaks, micro-servo wings, and pure homicidal rage. One wore a GoPro, another had a belt marked "Detonate." Panic rippled through the squad. This isn't protocol," shrieked the squad leader. The geese did not care. They descended with a level of violence usually reserved for solar flares. The Zirac troops fired desperately, but the geese were evasive, relentless, and honking in surround sound. One alien was last seen being lifted off into the sky, screaming as a goose yanked his anti-grav pack into overdrive. Site Beta. Urban Zone, Frankfurt here. The Zirac expected resistance. They got clowns. Literal clowns. Painted faces, oversized boots, giant rainbow-colored tanks marked cryogenic confetti. The aliens raised their rifles. The clowns honked their red noses. Then they opened fire with streams of blinding glitter. That froze upon contact, turning entire Zirac formations into frozen, sparkly statues. One trooper shouted into his comm, They're weaponizing humor." A voice from Earth's side replied, "You ain't seen nothing yet." A nearby billboard lit up, "Coming soon, Operation Pie Drop." Seconds later, Drone-carried pies began raining from the sky, acidic on impact, banana-scented, lethally confusing. High. Orbit. Earth's defense layer back aboard the Dominion Ascendant. Varak watched live feeds with a claw trembling over his command table. This isn't a military. It's a fever dream. His communication array lit up. A priority message. Encrypted, untraceable, unmistakably human. He accepted the call. Steve appeared, shirtless, in a kiddie pool, sipping orange juice with a straw shaped like a dolphin. "Yo, you guys good? I heard your boys are having a rough landing. You maybe want a reset button or something?" Varak's voice cracked. "You mock our invasion?" Steve leaned forward. "Buddy, if we took this seriously, your planet would already be spinning in reverse." Then he squirted himself with a water gun labeled EMP. Half of the Zirak fleet's short-range comms died instantly. Site Gamma, oceanic insertion. Pacific Trench Zirak naval units launched sea drones into Earth's deepest trenches. What they found was classified. Only fragments of their final transmission survived. "We disturbed something," it whispered in whale song. Then bit the sub. One blurry image showed a shadow, a giant, gleaming metallic creature coiled around the trench. Wall eyes glowing, tail the size of a city block. The Council would later name it Project Megahugs. Earth called it Kevin, Council War Room, 3 hours post-invasion. Across the galaxy, Council diplomats scrambled for explanations. Earth is using non-lethal warfare. No, they're using psychological subversion. They're just trolling us. Panic turned into paranoia. Analysts claimed the humans were testing response curves, reversing battle psychology, or breaking logic loops. One desperate strategist shouted, "We need to sue them for war crimes," to which another council member replied, "You can't sue people who don't follow the laws of physics." Earth Central. Situation Room General Marcela Ruiz stood in front of a tactical screen filled with blinking Zirak positions and human emoji overlays. Each emoji represented a counter-operation. Most of them were laughing. "Steve," she said calmly, "what's the next phase?" Steve looked up from a chessboard. He moved a rubber chicken into checkmate. "Send the inflatable decoys, the ones that play Rick Astley when shot." A pause. Marcella sighed. "Done." Final scene. Of Section 2 back in orbit, Varak's hand trembled as he recorded a private message to the Council. "This is not a war. This is humiliation by a species that should have gone extinct due to its own chaos. We tried to fight them with firepower. They answered with honking birds, disco tanks, and, God's help me, Steve." He looked up, sweat pooling beneath his chitin. "We've awakened something that doesn't play by rules. It laughs at them." Behind him, the ship's proximity alarm screamed. A banana-shaped drone just latched onto their hull, playing Earth music. The song, "Never Gonna Give You Up." Commander Varak hadn't slept in 2 cycles. Sleep wasn't even biologically required for his species, but his system had started simulating it out of sheer trauma. No fleet manual, no council protocol, no ancient text had ever prepared them for this, for humanity. The Earth campaign had not failed. It had never even begun. Because how do you invade a planet that isn't resisting? How do you win against a species that isn't trying? And worse, what happens when they do? Council broadcast chamber. Emergency session across the galaxy. The Council assembled for a crisis meeting. Holograms flickered in from 50 species, all yelling at once. They turned our stealth drones into party balloons. Our scouts reported a child with a slingshot downing a cruiser. They launched a satellite that only transmits dad jokes. Every hour, on the hour, a trembling advisor stood up. I think it's psychological warfare." An elder groaned. "This isn't warfare, this is mockery." "No," the advisor whispered, "this is preparation." A silence fell across the chamber. "They're not just defending, they're setting the tone, they're playing with us. To see how we react," another voice chimed in. Colder. "Worse, they're studying us. Earth, Operation Peacetime." Pressure. Cooker deep inside a decommissioned nuclear facility turned strategy bunker, a single AI was running 4,000 simulations per minute. Codename, Hannibal. Built not for war, but for reverse escalation. Its job, determine the exact moment when humor stops being effective and terror becomes strategic. And today it found the breakpoint meanwhile, on board Zirek's ship. Hallow Edge Lieutenant Kralak scrolled through captured Earth footage. He had thousands of hours, humans laughing, goofing, singing, then suddenly pausing, looking up, sinking. "Why are they all looking at the sky?" he muttered. Then the broadcast shifted. Every Earth channel cut to a single message. No filters, no subtitles, just Steve, no shirt, no tongs, just a look. Serious, cold. "You thought we were playing." He stared into the camera, still, silent. "You forgot who we were. Before peace." The feed cut to black, and across the Zirak fleet every internal system was infected with a single file. Memory, pre-war humanity, XE Zirak command, internal black box feed. The file opened itself. No security layer stopped. What it showed that wasn't classified. It was forgotten. Wars Earth never told the galaxy about. Cities erased, planets glassed, tactics banned in every galactic charter. Footage of unarmed humans walking through fire, laughing, bleeding, and winning. Clips of orbital drops where soldiers carried guitars alongside rifles. Warfare where emotion itself had been weaponized. The final video? A single sentence. "We chose peace not because we were weak, but because we ran out of enemies." The file ended. System status, unstable. Fleet status, trembling. Council, panic room. 22 minutes later. "They were hiding it," someone shrieked. "Their history, their full capacity." A young diplomat whispered, "They baited us." The room froze. That word bait, it echoed through every council species' instincts. This wasn't an overreaction. This wasn't panic. This was a setup. From the start, humans had chosen not to fight, to lull the galaxy, to let them come close, mock, invade, laugh. And now? Now the humans were looking directly into their enemies' souls and whispering, "You're inside the trap." Earth-Moon orbit. Operation Unveil begins. 3 cloaked vessels deactivated their stealth fields. They were not warships, they were archives, codenamed Oblivion Choir. Each one carried full simulation payloads designed not to kill, but to show. They activated transmission mode. Every alien ship within 100 light minutes received instant memory injections, not propaganda, perspective. How it felt to be a human on Earth during its worst wars. How it felt to be outnumbered, betrayed, cornered, and still win. Some aliens screamed, others wept. One ship fired on its own allies in sheer confusion. In the command seat of Dominion Ascendant, Varak clutched his chest. "It's not just war," he rasped. "It's memory warfare. Final scene. Earth quiet." Again, Steve stood alone on a hilltop, overlooking a peaceful valley. He wasn't laughing anymore. Behind him, humans moved silently, efficiently, resetting their defenses, packing away the clown gear, washing off the glitter bombs. The performance was over. Now came the second act. General Ruiz approached. "They've seen it," she said quietly. "Everything." Steve nodded. "Took them long enough." "You think they'll still fight?" He looked up at the stars. "Only if they want to find out what we've been hiding behind the laughter," she sighed. "We're not going to stop them, are we?" "No," Steve said. "We're going to let them decide." A pause. "Either they leave or we remind them. The Galactic Council sent one last fleet. It wasn't for war. Not officially. They called it the Resolution Armada, a coalition of elite ships, peace envoys, crisis negotiators, and emergency war constructs. It was a desperate move, a broken mask pretending to still hold dignity. It arrived outside Earth's orbit with full ceremonial pageantry, banners projected in light, peace signals echoed across dozens of frequencies, and Earth said nothing. For 10 full hours the galaxy waited, until a single Earth transmission blinked online. A voice, calm, female, familiar. "You poked us, we laughed, you pressed harder, we remembered, and now you want to talk." The voice paused. "Fine, Let's talk. Transmission feed. Earth Command broadcast. The galaxy's diplomats leaned forward as a visual feed opened. A giant chamber. Stone, steel, firelight. At the center stood Steve. No sunglasses, no smile, no grill. Behind him, a wall of plaques, each engraved with names. These are the humans who chose peace when they could have chosen vengeance. He turned to the camera. You thought our laughter was weakness. It was restraint. You thought our jokes were shields. They were warnings. He stepped aside. Behind him, a large door slowly opened. What walked out silenced every frequency. Rows of human soldiers, silent, fully armored, eyes cold, weapons holstered. Not raised, just resting. But what shook the aliens was the look on their faces. Calm. Ready. Like they had done this before, 1,000 times, and were bored of it. Galactic Council relay, panic across systems. The Council's psychic species felt, at first, a wave of collective memory rippling across space, not broadcast, not forced. Echoed, as if Earth's silence had unlocked something embedded long ago in the stars. Fear. Civilizations began unplugging from Council networks. Allies turned neutral. Some surrendered without a single shot fired. Whole fleets turned around mid-warp, afraid of what might happen if they stayed. One by one, species remembered ancient warnings buried in their DNA. If you ever find Earth, don't wake them. Council flagship. Last attempt at control executor. Zelvos stood before his advisors. They are bluffing, he barked. No one moved. We outnumber them. No one answered. Then strike. A junior officer turned slowly. They're not bluffing, sir. They're waiting. Waiting, the executor repeated, confused. For what? Earth. Operation Quiet Sun High above the Earth. 3 satellites. Aligned. Not for weapons, not for shields, for a message. A broadcast beamed to every planet, moon, and outpost in the Council's network. 1 sentence. Plain. Undecorated. Delivered in every known language. We won't chase you, we don't need to. But if you ever return it, we won't be laughing. Meanwhile, inside a Council war room, a single alien diplomat stared at the message, trembling. They're done. What do you mean? Another, asked. The diplomat whispered. They've closed the door. That wasn't a threat. It was a line, and then silence. Across the galaxy, ships began erasing Earth's coordinates from their maps, not by order, by instinct, as if the universe itself had flinched. Final scene. 1 year later, the Council held a ceremonial renaming of sectors. The Sol system was removed from all navigation charts. All known travel routes were rerouted. The space around Earth declared, null zone, do not enter. When asked why, no one answered. When pressed, the response was always the same. Because once, we woke them, and they laughed. Back on Earth, Steve walked through a quiet forest, no warships, no alarms. Just birds, wind, and peace. General Ruiz joined him. That it? She asked. Steve shrugged. For now. He tossed a rock into a river and smiled faintly. We gave them one last chance to understand. Ruiz looked up at the clear sky. And if they don't? Steve turned, eyes sharp again. Then next time we won't start with the jokes.